They forced me to wash dishes, not knowing I owned the mansion.
They thought she was just another maid. But little did they know, Angela was the wife of the man who owned the mansion they were celebrating in. At a glamorous luxury party filled with laughter and champagne, she was humiliated, forced to wash dishes in front of strangers. But the truth would leave everyone speechless. If you love real-life emotional stories that reveal hidden truths, make sure you hit subscribe and share this story with a friend, because this one will shock you. Angela had always been the kind of woman who carried herself with quiet dignity. She wasn't flashy, she didn't chase attention, and she believed that true worth was never measured by what you wore, but by the way you treated people. Her husband, David, admired this about her the most. Despite being one of the most successful businessmen in the city, David loved how grounded Angela remained. Tonight, however, was different. David had to host a grand celebration at their mansion, an event that gathered some of the wealthiest and most influential people in town. The chandeliers sparkled, the garden was decorated with golden lights, and expensive cars lined the driveway. It was the kind of party where appearances mattered more than personalities. Angela didn't enjoy these gatherings much, but she supported her husband. She wore a simple but elegant black dress, kept her hair tied back, and planned to stay mostly in the background. To her, blending in felt easier than trying to impress a room full of people who often judged at first glance. As the guests poured in, Angela noticed how quickly people's eyes slid past her. Some smiled politely, but most ignored her completely, as though she didn't belong. She didn't mind. It wasn't the first time people had underestimated her because of her skin color, her style, or her quiet presence. What Angela didn't know was that this evening, her patience would be tested like never before. A single cruel assumption, made by someone who thought they were above her, would soon set the entire party buzzing and flip the night upside down. The party was in full swing. Waiters moved swiftly with trays of champagne, laughter echoed under the grand chandelier, and the clinking of glasses filled the air. Angela stood near the corner, quietly watching the guests. She wasn't looking for attention, just observing, smiling softly, waiting for David to finish greeting everyone. That's when Victoria arrived. She was the kind of woman who lived for appearances, dressed in a glittering gown, her chin held high, eyes scanning the room as if she owned it. Victoria wasn't part of David's close circle. She was more of an acquaintance, invited through mutual connections. But she carried herself as though the entire event revolved around her. Her eyes landed on Angela. Instead of offering a polite hello, Victoria frowned, her lips curling in disdain. She glanced Angela up and down, then leaned toward another guest and whispered something. They both laughed quietly, glancing back at Angela. Moments later, Victoria walked straight up to her. With a condescending smile, she said, "Oh, good, you must be part of the staff." "Finally, I've been waiting for someone to take care of the dishes. They're piling up in the kitchen, and honestly, it looks unprofessional." "Chop, chop, dear, the guests shouldn't have to see a mess." Angela blinked, stunned. At first, she thought Victoria was joking, but the woman's tone was sharp, commanding. Guests nearby turned their heads, curious. Angela tried to speak. "Excuse me, I think you're—" But Victoria cut her off. "No excuses. You work here, right? Don't stand around looking lost. Get to it. The kitchen is right there. And please be quick about it," whispers spread. Some guests chuckled under their breath. Others shook their heads, but no one stepped in. To them, it was just another scene at a high society party. Angela felt heat rising in her chest. She wasn't angry yet, more shocked. But as Victoria waved her hand dismissively, as though shooing a servant, Angela realized this wasn't just a mistake. This was disrespect, and everyone was watching. Angela's face burned as dozens of eyes turned toward her. Some guests smirked, sipping their champagne, enjoying the drama. Others looked away awkwardly, unwilling to get involved. But Victoria, she thrived on the attention. "Well," Victoria said louder this time, making sure everyone nearby heard, "don't just stand there. We all have our roles tonight. Yours is to keep things clean. Now hurry along before more glasses pile up. Angela opened her mouth to respond, but something in her heart told her to stay calm. She glanced toward the grand staircase, where David was still busy shaking hands with investors, unaware of what was unfolding just a few steps away, trying to keep her composure. Angela softly replied, "I don't think you understand." Victoria laughed, cutting her off again. "Oh, I understand perfectly. You're just embarrassed. Don't worry, dear, serving others is nothing to be ashamed of. Some of us were born to shine, and some are born to serve. That's just life." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The insult hung heavy in the air. Angela felt her chest tighten, but before she could say another word, Victoria added with a smirk, "Besides, people like you should be grateful for opportunities like this. Not everyone gets to be in such a beautiful mansion." The cruelty in her voice was sharp. A couple nearby raised their eyebrows, but instead of defending Angela, they turned away, pretending not to hear. Angela's hands trembled. Every part of her wanted to shout back, but she remembered David's words so many times before. Dignity is strength. Never let their ignorance steal your grace. So instead of lashing out, Angela took a deep breath. She gave Victoria a small, composed smile, the kind of smile that carried more power than any insult, but Victoria mistook it for weakness. "That's better," she said smugly. "Now go, before I have to call someone else to replace you." At that moment, the tension in the room was unbearable. Guests whispered, waiting to see if Angela would finally break, or if someone would step in. What no one knew was that the quiet woman they were mocking had more power in this mansion than any of them could imagine. Angela's heart pounded. Every word from Victoria stung, but she stood firm, refusing to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. Around her, the whispers grew louder. Some pitied her, others enjoyed the scene as though it were entertainment. Just then, one of the waiters walked past, carrying a tray of wine glasses. Victoria stopped him and, with a smirk, pointed at Angela. "She's not helping at all. Can you believe it? I asked her to wash the dishes, and she's just standing there." Imagine the nerve. The waiter froze, unsure how to respond. His eyes darted between Angela and Victoria, clearly uncomfortable. Angela could feel every gaze in the room weighing down on her shoulders. She wanted to speak up, to set the record straight. But something inside her whispered, "Not yet. Let them show who they really are." Victoria rolled her eyes dramatically and said loud enough for the crowd to hear, "This is what happens when you let just anyone in. Standards drop. Some people don't belong in places like this, and it shows." Angela's chest tightened, but instead of arguing, she calmly said, "Are you sure you want to finish that sentence?" The room went silent. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight, controlled, steady, and powerful. Guests leaned in, sensing a shift. Victoria laughed, but it came out uneasy this time. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "What could you possibly say that matters?" Angela's lips curled into the faintest smile. She didn't answer. Instead, she simply turned her head, her eyes locking on David, who was now making his way toward them, unaware of the storm he was walking into. The crowd's whispers grew. Something was about to happen. Everyone could feel it, and Victoria still had no idea who she was speaking to. David descended the staircase, smiling warmly as he made his way through the guests. His presence alone drew attention. Confident, gracious, the kind of man people respected instantly. But as he approached the circle forming around Angela and Victoria, his smile slowly faded. He noticed the way people were staring at his wife. Some were whispering, others smirking. And then his eyes landed on Angela, standing tall, but visibly holding back her emotions. He knew something wasn't right. "Angela," he said gently, stepping beside her. "Is everything all right?" Before she could answer, Victoria let out a relieved laugh. "Oh, thank goodness you're here. Finally someone in charge. This woman has been refusing to do her duties all night. I've asked her repeatedly to clean the dishes, but she just stands here arguing. It's embarrassing, honestly. At a party like this, standards matter." David blinked, taken aback. For a moment he thought he'd misheard. He glanced at Angela, then back at Victoria. "Excuse me, what exactly did you just say?" Victoria folded her arms, growing bolder now that she had an audience. I said she's neglecting her job. I don't know why you hired someone like her, but it's bringing down the entire image of this party. People like her don't belong in places like this. Gasps erupted from the crowd. A few guests even whispered, "Did she just say that?" The tension in the room was unbearable. David's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, his voice calm but cold. "You believe my wife is staff?" The words hit Victoria like a slap. She froze, eyes widening. Your wife?" she stammered. "Yes," David said firmly, slipping his arm protectively around Angela's shoulder. "This is Angela, my partner, my heart, the woman who owns this mansion as much as I do." The crowd erupted with whispers, shock, disbelief. Suddenly, every mocking glance turned into shame. Angela finally spoke, her voice steady. "You judged me the second you saw me. You decided I wasn't good enough to stand beside you. You thought my skin color, my dress, my quiet presence made me invisible. But let me make one thing clear. I don't need to prove my worth to anyone here. Not tonight. Not ever." Her words carried like thunder. Guests lowered their eyes, uncomfortable. Victoria's face turned red. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. David looked her straight in the eyes. "This party is about celebrating success, respect, and unity. But clearly, you don't belong in places where dignity is required. I think it's time you leave." Victoria's jaw dropped. You're asking me to leave?" "No," David said sharply. "I'm telling you to. My security will show you the door." And just like that, 2 staff members appeared, gently but firmly escorting her out. Guests parted, some shaking their heads in disapproval, others avoiding eye contact altogether. The mighty, glamorous Victoria was gone. Her arrogance shattered in front of everyone. The room was silent for a moment. Then softly, guests began clapping. It started with one, then another, until the applause filled the mansion. They weren't just clapping for Angela. They were clapping for dignity, for justice, for the truth that had silenced cruelty. Angela, holding David's hand, felt a weight lift from her chest. She hadn't needed to raise her voice. She hadn't needed to fight with anger. The truth itself had been enough. David leaned close and whispered, "I'm proud of you." Angela smiled faintly. "No, David, I'm proud of us. Because tonight wasn't just about one insult. It was about proving that respect matters more than wealth, and dignity matters more than appearances. And in that moment, the party wasn't about luxury anymore. It was about a lesson no one present would ever forget. The party carried on that night, but the atmosphere had changed. The laughter was softer, the conversations more thoughtful. People approached Angela with new eyes, eyes that finally saw her not as someone to dismiss, but as a woman of strength, dignity, and grace. But Angela didn't need their apologies or their sudden respect. She'd already proven to herself, and to everyone, that silence and composure can speak louder than shouting. What truly mattered was that her husband had stood by her side, and together they had turned humiliation into a lesson. And that lesson was clear. Never assume someone's worth based on appearance. Never judge a person by the color of their skin, the clothes they wear, or the way they choose to carry themselves. Because dignity, kindness, and respect are priceless, and no mansion, no dress, no amount of money can buy them. Victoria had tried to humiliate Angela, but in the end, she only revealed her own ugliness. And while she walked out in shame, Angela remained in that mansion with her head held high, proving that true power comes from within. To everyone listening right now, remember this: the world is full of people who will judge you unfairly. They may look down on you, mock you, or underestimate you, but your worth is not defined by their ignorance. Your value is unshakable, and it comes from your character, your courage, and the way you treat others. So, if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever been treated unfairly, hold on to this story. Let it remind you that the truth always comes out. And sometimes the most powerful response isn't anger, but dignity. Before you go, I want you to do 3 simple things. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button so more people can hear it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more powerful real-life stories like this one. And most importantly, share this video with someone who needs encouragement today, because together we can spread stories that inspire respect, compassion, and change. This was Angela's story, but it could be yours. And maybe, just maybe, this reminder will make someone think twice before judging another person again. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.